Hello, and welcome back to Baby Elias's stories. We now return to Pinocchio by C. Collodi. Chapter 10. The puppets recognize their brother Pinocchio. When Pinocchio came into the little puppet theater, an incident occurred that almost produced a revolution. The curtain had gone up and the play had already begun. On the stage, Harlequin and Punch were as usual quarreling with each other and threatening every moment to come to blows. All at once, Harlequin stopped short and turned to the public. He pointed with his hand to someone far down in the pit and exclaimed in a dramatic tone, "Gods of the firmament! Do I dream or am I awake? But surely that is Pinocchio!" "It is indeed Pinocchio!" cried Punch. "It is indeed himself!" screamed Miss Rose, peeping from behind the scenes. "It is Pinocchio! It is Pinocchio!" shouted all the puppets in chorus, leaping from all sides onto the stage. "It is Pinocchio! It is our brother Pinocchio! Long live Pinocchio!" "Pinocchio, come up here to me," cried Harlequin, "and throw yourself into the arms of your wooden brothers." At this affectionate invitation, Pinocchio made a leap from the end of the pit into the reserved seats. Another leap landed him on the head of the leader of the orchestra, and he then sprang upon the stage. The embraces, the friendly pinches, and the demonstrations of warm brotherly affection that Pinocchio received from the excited crowd of actors and actresses of the puppet dramatic company are beyond description. The sight was doubtless a moving one, but the public in the pit, finding that the play was stopped, became impatient and began to shout, "We will have the play! Go on with the play!" It was all breath thrown away. The puppets, instead of continuing the recital, redoubled their noise and outcries, and putting Pinocchio on their shoulders, they carried him in triumph before the footlights. At that moment, out came the showman. He was very big and so ugly that the sight of him was enough to frighten anyone. His beard was as black as ink, and so long that it reached from his chin to the ground. I need only say that he trod upon it when he walked. His mouth was as big as an oven, and his eyes were like two lanterns of red glass with light burning inside them. He carried a large whip made of snakes and foxes' tails twisted together, which he cracked constantly. Whoosh! At his unexpected appearance, there was a profound silence. No one dared to breathe. A fly might have been heard in the stillness. The poor puppets of both sexes trembled like so many leaves. "Why have you come to raise a disturbance in my theater?" asked the showman of Pinocchio. in the gruff voice of a hobgoblin suffering from a severe cold in the head.
"Believe me, honored sir, it was not my fault."
"That is enough! Tonight we will settle our accounts." As soon as the play was over, the showman went into the kitchen, where a fine sheep, preparing for his supper, was turning slowly on the spit in front of the fire. As there was not enough wood to finish roasting and browning it, he called Harlequin and Punch and said to them, "Bring that puppet here. You will find him hanging on a nail. It seems to me that he is made of very dry wood, and I am sure that if he were thrown on the fire, he would make a beautiful blaze for the roast." At first, Harlequin and Punch hesitated, but appalled by a severe glance from their master, they obeyed. In a short time, they returned to the kitchen, carrying poor Pinocchio, who was wriggling like an eel taken out of water and screaming desperately, "Papa! Papa! Save me! I will not die! I will not die!" Chapter 11. Fire Eater sneezes and pardons Pinocchio. The showman, Fire Eater, for that was his name, looked like a wicked man, especially with his black beard that covered his chest and legs like an apron. On the whole, however, he had not a bad heart. In proof of this, when he saw poor Pinocchio brought before him, struggling and screaming, "I will not die! I will not die!" he was quite moved and felt very sorry for him. He tried to hold out, but after a little he could stand it no longer, and he sneezed violently. "Achoo!" When he heard the sneeze, Harlequin, who up to that moment had been in the deepest affliction and bowed down like a weeping willow, became quite cheerful, and leaning towards Pinocchio, he whispered to him softly, "Good news, brother. The showman has sneezed, and that is a sign that he pities you, and consequently you are saved." Most men, when they feel compassion for somebody, either weep or at least pretend to dry their eyes. Fire Eater, on the contrary, whenever he was really overcome, had the habit of sneezing. After he had sneezed, the showman, still acting the ruffian, shouted to Pinocchio, "Have done crying! Your lamentations have given me a pain in my stomach. I feel a spasm that almost, achoo! Achoo!" And he sneezed again twice. "Bless you," said Pinocchio. "Thank you. And your papa and your mama, are they still alive?" asked Fire Eater.
"Papa, yes. My mama I have never known."
"Who can say what a sorrow it would be for your poor old father if I were to have you thrown amongst those burning coals? Poor old man, I pity him. Achoo! Achoo! Achoo!" And he sneezed again 3 times.
"Bless you,"
said Pinocchio. "Thank you. All the same, some compassion is due to me, for as you see, I have no more wood with which to finish roasting my mutton, and to tell you the truth, under the circumstances, you would have been of great use to me. However, I have had pity on you, so I must have patience. Instead of you, I will burn under the spit one of the puppets belonging to my company. Ho there, gendarmes! At this call, two wooden gendarmes immediately appeared. They were very long and very thin and had on cocked hats and held unsheathed swords in their hands. The showman said to them in a hoarse voice, "Take Harlequin, bind him securely, and then throw him on the fire to burn. I am determined that my mutton shall be well roasted." Only imagine that poor Harlequin. His terror was so great that his legs bent under him and he fell with his face on the ground. At this agonizing sight, Pinocchio, weeping bitterly, threw himself at the showman's feet and, bathing his long beard with his tears, he began to say in a supplicating voice,
"Have pity, Sir Fire Eater."
"Here there are no sirs," the showman answered severely.
"Have pity, Sir Knight."
"Here there are no knights."
"Have pity, Commander."
"Here there are no commanders."
"Have pity, Excellence."
Upon hearing himself called Excellence, the showman began to smile and became at once kinder and more tractable. Turning to Pinocchio, he asked, "Well, what do you want from me?"
"I implore you to pardon poor Harlequin."
"For him there can be no pardon. As I have spared you, he must be put on the fire, for I am determined that my mutton shall be well roasted."
"In that case,"
cried Pinocchio proudly, rising and throwing away his cap of breadcrumb,
"in that case, I know my duty. Come on, gendarmes, bind me and throw me amongst the flames. No, it is not just that poor Harlequin, my true friend, should die for me."
These words, pronounced in a loud, heroic voice, made all the puppets who were present cry. Even the gendarmes, although they were made of wood, wept like two newly born lambs. Fire Eater at first remained as hard and unmoved as ice, but little by little he began to melt and to sneeze. Achoo! And having sneezed 4 or 5 times, he opened his arms affectionately and said to Pinocchio, "You are a good, brave boy. Come here and give me a kiss." Pinocchio ran at once, and climbing like a squirrel up the showman's beard, he deposited a hearty kiss on the point of his nose. "Then the pardon is granted?" asked poor Harlequin in a faint voice that was scarcely audible. "The pardon is granted," answered Fire Eater. He then added, sighing and shaking his head, "I must have patience. Tonight I shall have to resign myself to eat the mutton half raw. But another time, woe to him who displeases me." At the news of the pardon, the puppets all ran to the stage and, having lighted the lamps and chandeliers as if for a full dress performance, they began to leap and to dance merrily. At dawn, they were still dancing. Chapter 12. Pinocchio receives a present of 5 gold pieces. The following day, Fire Eater called Pinocchio to one side and asked him, "What is your father's name?"
Geppetto?
"And what trade does he follow?"
He is a beggar.
"Does he gain much?"
Gain much? Why, he has never a penny in his pocket. Only think, in order to buy a spelling book so that I could go to school, he was obliged to sell the only coat he had to wear. A coat that, between patches and darns, was not fit to be seen.
Poor devil! I feel almost sorry for him. Here are 5 gold pieces. Go at once and take them to him with my compliments." Pinocchio was overjoyed and thanked the showman 1,000 times. He embraced all the puppets of the company, one by one, even to the gendarmes, and set out to return home. But he had not gone far when he met on the road a fox lame of one foot and a cat blind of both eyes, and they were going along helping each other like good companions in misfortune. The fox, who was lame, walked leaning on the cat, and the cat, who was blind, was guided by the fox. "Good day, Pinocchio," said the fox, greeting him politely.
How do you come to know my name?
Asked the puppet. "I know your father well."
Where did you see him?
"I saw him yesterday at the door of his house."
And what was he doing?
"He was in his shirt sleeves and shivering with cold."
Poor papa! But that is over. For the future he shall shiver no more.
"Why?"
Because I have become a gentleman.
"A gentleman? You?" said the fox, and he began to laugh rudely and scornfully. The cat also began to laugh, but to conceal it, she combed her whiskers with her 4 paws.
There is little to laugh at,
cried Pinocchio angrily.
I am really sorry to make your mouth water, but if you know anything about it, you can see that these are 5 gold pieces.
And he pulled out the money that Fire Eater had given him. At the jingling of the money, the fox, with an involuntary movement, stretched out the paw that seemed crippled, and the cat opened wide 2 eyes that looked like 2 green lanterns. It is true that she shut them again, and so quickly that Pinocchio observed nothing. "And now," asked the fox, "what are you going to do with all that money?"
First of all,
answered the puppet,
I intend to buy a new coat for my papa, made of gold and silver and with diamond buttons, and then I will buy a spelling book for myself.
"For yourself?"
Yes, indeed, for I wish to go to school to study in earnest.
"Look at me," said the fox. "Through my foolish passion for study, I have lost a leg."
Look at me, said the cat. Through my foolish passion for study, I have lost the sight of both my eyes.
At that moment, a white black bird that was perched on the hedge by the road began his usual song and said, "Pinocchio, don't listen to the advice of bad companions. If you do, you will repent it." Poor Blackbird! If only he had not spoken. The cat, with a great leap, sprang upon him, and without even giving him time to say, "Oh," ate him in a mouthful. Oh, feathers and all. Having eaten him and cleaned her mouth, she shut her eyes again and feigned blindness as before. "Poor Blackbird," said Pinocchio to the cat. "Why did you treat him so badly?" "I did it to give him a lesson. He will learn another time not to meddle in other people's conversation." They had gone almost halfway when the fox, halting suddenly, said to the puppet, "Would you like to double your money?" "In what way?" "Would you like to make out of your 5 miserable sovereigns 100, 1,000, 2,000?
"I should think so, but in what way?"
"The way is easy enough. Instead of returning home, you must go with us."
"And where do you wish to take me?"
"To the land of the owls." Pinocchio reflected a moment, and then he said resolutely,
"No, I will not go. I am already close to the house, and I will return home to my papa, who is waiting for me. Who can tell how often the poor old man must have sighed yesterday when I did not come back? I have indeed been a bad son, and the talking cricket was right when he said, 'Disobedient boys never come to any good in the world.' I have found it to be true, for many misfortunes have happened to me. Even yesterday, in Fire Eater's house, I ran the risk. Oh, it makes me shudder only to think of it."
"Well then," said the fox, "you are quite decided to go home? Go then, and so much the worse for you." "So much the worse for you," repeated the cat. "Think well of it, Pinocchio, for you are giving a kick to fortune." "To fortune," repeated the cat. "Between today and tomorrow, your 5 sovereigns would have become 2,000.
2,000,
repeated the cat.
"But how is it possible that they could become so many?"
asked Pinocchio, remaining with his mouth open from astonishment. "I will explain it to you at once," said the fox. "You must know that in the land of the owls there is a sacred field called by everybody the Field of Miracles. In this field you must dig a hole, and you put into it, we will say, 1 gold sovereign. You then cover up the hole with a little earth. You must water it with 2 pails of water from the fountain, then sprinkle it with 2 pinches of salt. And when night comes, you can go quietly to bed. In the meanwhile, during the night, the gold piece will grow and flower. And in the morning, when you get up and return to the field, what do you find? You find a beautiful tree laden with as many gold sovereigns as a fine ear of corn has grains in the month of June."
So that,
said Pinocchio, more and more bewildered.
supposing I buried my 5 sovereigns in that field, how many should I find there the following morning?
That is an exceedingly easy calculation, replied the fox. A calculation that you can make on the ends of your fingers. Every sovereign will give you an increase of 500. Multiply 500 by 5, and the following morning you will find you with 2,500 shining gold pieces in your pocket.
Oh, how delightful!
cried Pinocchio, dancing for joy.
As soon as ever I have obtained these sovereigns, I will keep 2,000 for myself, and the other 500 I will make a present of it to you two.
A present to us? cried the fox with indignation and appearing much offended. What are you dreaming of? What are you dreaming of? repeated the cat. We do not work, said the fox, for interest. We work solely to enrich others. Others, repeated the cat.
What good people,
thought Pinocchio to himself, and forgetting there and then his papa, the new coat, the spelling book, and all his good resolutions, he said to the fox and the cat,
let us be off at once. I will go with you.
Chapter 13. The Inn of the Red Craw-Fish. They walked and walked and walked until at last, towards evening, they arrived, all tired out, at the Inn of the Red Craw-Fish. Let us stop here a little, said the fox. That way that we may have something to eat and rest ourselves for an hour or two. We will start again at midnight so as to arrive at the Field of Miracles by dawn tomorrow morning. Having gone into the inn, they all three sat down to table, but none of them had any appetite. The cat, who was suffering from indigestion and feeling seriously indisposed, could only eat 35 fish with tomato sauce and 4 portions of tripe with Parmesan cheese. And because she thought the tripe was not seasoned enough, she asked 3 times for the butter and grated cheese. The fox would also willingly have picked a little, but as his doctor had ordered him a strict diet, he was forced to content himself simply with a hare dressed with a sweet and sour sauce and garnished lightly with fat chickens and early pullets. After the hare, he sent for a made dish of partridges, rabbits, frogs, lizards, and other delicacies. He could not touch anything else. He cared so little for food, he said, that he could put nothing to his lips. The one who ate the least was Pinocchio. He asked for some walnuts and a hunch of bread, and left everything on his plate. The poor boy's thoughts were continually fixed on the Field of Miracles. When they had supped, the fox said to the host, "Give us 2 good rooms, one for Mr. Pinocchio, and the other for me and my companion. We will snatch a little sleep before we leave. Remember, however, that at midnight we wish to be called to continue our journey." "Yes, gentlemen," answered the host, and he winked, wink, at the fox and the cat, as much as to say, "I know what you are up to. We understand one another." No sooner had Pinocchio got into bed than he fell asleep at once and began to dream. And he dreamed that he was in the middle of the field, and the field was full of shrubs covered with clusters of gold sovereigns. And as they swung in the wind, they went zin, 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 almost as if they would say, "Let who will come and take us." But just as Pinocchio was stretching out his hand to pick handfuls of those beautiful gold pieces and to put them in his pocket, he was suddenly awakened by 3 violent blows on the door of his room. It was the host who had come to tell him that midnight had struck.
"Are my companions ready?"
asked the puppet. "Ready? Why, they left 2 hours ago."
"Why were they in such a hurry?"
"Because the cat had received a message to say that her eldest kitten was ill with chilblains on his feet and was in danger of death."
"Did they pay for the supper?"
"What are you thinking of? They are too well educated to dream of offering such an insult to a gentleman like you."
"What a pity! It is an insult that would have given me so much pleasure,"
said Pinocchio, scratching his head. He then asked,
"And where did my good friends say they would wait for me?"
"At the Field of Miracles, tomorrow morning at daybreak." Pinocchio paid a sovereign for his supper and that of his companions, and then left. Outside the inn it was so pitch dark that he had almost to grope his way, for it was impossible to see a hand's breadth in front of him. Some night birds flying across the road from one hedge to the other brushed Pinocchio's nose with their wings as they passed, which caused him so much terror that, springing back, he shouted, "Who goes there?" And the echo in the surrounding hills repeated in the distance, "Who goes there? Who goes there?" As he was walking along, he saw a little insect shining dimly on the trunk of a tree, like a night light in a lamp of transparent china. "Who are you?" asked Pinocchio. "I am the ghost of the talking cricket," answered the insect in a low voice, so weak and faint that it would seem to come from the other world. "What do you want with me?" said the puppet. "I want to give you some advice. Go back and take the 4 sovereigns that you have left to your poor father, who is weeping and in despair because you have not returned to him." "By tomorrow my papa will be a gentleman, for these 4 sovereigns will have become 2,000. "Don't trust to those who promise to make you rich in a day. Usually they are either mad or rogues. Give ear to me and go back, my boy." "On the contrary, I am determined to go on." "The hour is late." "I am determined to go on." "The night is dark." "I am determined to go on." "The road is dangerous." "I am determined to go on." "Remember that boys who are bent on following their caprices and will have their own way, sooner or later repent it.
Always the same stories. Good night, Cricket.
Good night, Pinocchio, and may heaven preserve you from dangers and from assassins. No sooner had he said these words than the talking cricket vanished suddenly like a light that has been blown out, and the road became darker than ever. Chapter 14. Pinocchio falls amongst assassins.
Really?
Said the puppet to himself as he resumed his journey.
How unfortunate we poor boys are. Everybody scolds us and gives us good advice. See now, because I don't choose to listen to that tiresome cricket, who knows, according to him, how many misfortunes are to happen to me. I am even to meet with assassins. That is, however, of little consequence, for I don't believe in assassins. I have never believed in them. For me, I think that assassins have been invented purposely by papas to frighten boys who want to go out at night. Besides, supposing I was to come across them here in the road, do you imagine they would frighten me? Not the least in the world. I should go to meet them and cry, "Gentlemen assassins, what do you want with me?" Remember that with me there is no joking. Therefore, go about your business and be quiet. At this speech, they would run away like the wind. If, however, they were so badly educated as to not run away, why, then I would run away myself, and there would be an end of it.
But Pinocchio had not time to finish his reasoning, for at that moment he thought that he heard a slight rustle of leaves behind him. He turned to look and saw in the gloom two evil-looking black figures completely enveloped in charcoal sacks. They were running after him on tiptoe and making great leaps like two phantoms.
"Here they are in reality,"
he said to himself, and not knowing where to hide his gold pieces, he put them in his mouth precisely under his tongue. Then he tried to escape, but he had not gone a step when he felt himself seized by the arm and heard two horrid, sepulchral voices saying to him, sepulchral, relating to a tomb or interment. Sepulchral, 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 gloomy. But he had not gone a step when he felt himself seized by the arm and heard two horrid sepulchral voices saying to him, your money or your life. Pinocchio, not being able to answer in words, owing to the money that was in his mouth, made 1,000 low bows and 1,000 pantomimes. He tried thus to make the two muffled figures whose eyes were only visible through the holes in their sacks, understand that he was a poor puppet, and that he had not as much as a counterfeit nickel in his pocket. "Come now, less nonsense, and out with the money!" cried the two brigands threateningly. And the puppet made a gesture with his hands to signify, "I have none." "Deliver up your money, or you are dead," said the tallest of the brigands.
"Dead,"
repeated the other. "And after we have killed you, we will also kill your father."
"Also your father." "No, no, no! Not my poor papa!"
cried Pinocchio in a despairing voice, and as he said it, the sovereigns clinked in his mouth.
Clink, clink, clink.
"Ah, you rascal! Then you have hidden your money under your tongue. Spit it out at once!" Pinocchio was obstinate. "Ah, you pretend to be deaf, do you? Wait a moment. Leave it to us to find the means to make you give it up." And one of them seized the puppet by the end of his nose, and the other took him by the chin and began to pull them brutally, the one up and the other down, to force him to open his mouth. But it was all to no purpose. Pinocchio's mouth seemed to be nailed and riveted together. Then the shorter assassin drew out an ugly knife, and tried to put it between his lips like a lever or chisel. But Pinocchio, as quick as a lightning, caught his hand with his teeth, and with one bite bit it clear off and spat it out. Pooh! Imagine his astonishment when, instead of a hand, he perceived that a cat's paw lay on the ground. Encouraged by this first victory, he used his nails to such purpose that he succeeded in liberating himself from his assailants, and jumping the hedge by the roadside, he began to fly across the country. The assassins ran after him like two dogs chasing a hare, and the one who had lost a paw ran on one leg, and no one ever knew how he managed it. After a race of some miles, Pinocchio could go no more. Giving himself up for lost, he climbed the trunk of a very high pine tree and seated himself in the topmost branches. The assassins attempted to climb after him, but when they had reached halfway up, they slid down again and arrived on the ground with the skin grazed from their hands and knees. But they were not to be beaten by so little. Collecting a quantity of dry wood, they piled it beneath the pine and set fire to it. In less time than it takes to tell, the pine began to burn and to flame like a candle blown by the wind. Pinocchio, seeing that the flames were mounting higher every instant, and not wishing to end his life like a roasted pigeon, made a stupendous leap from the top of the tree and started afresh across the fields and vineyards. The assassins followed him and kept behind him without once giving up. The day began to break, and they were still pursuing him. Suddenly, Pinocchio found his way barred by a wide, deep ditch full of stagnant water, the color of coffee. What was he to do?
1, 2, 3!
cried the puppet, and making a rush, he sprang to the other side. The assassins also jumped, but not having measured the distance properly. Splash! Splash! They fell into the very middle of the ditch. Pinocchio, who heard the plunge and the splashing of the water, shouted out, laughing and without stopping,
"A fine bath to you, gentlemen assassins!"
and he felt convinced that they were drowned. When, turning to look, he perceived that, on the contrary, they were both running after him, still enveloped in their sacks, with the water dripping from them as if they had been two hollow baskets.